Hello, everyone.
Hello.
I'm here with Stephen Ray, my longtime friend, for Stories in the Room live stream. And our moderator today, once again, is Dante Marinelli. He's my son. Very talented singer, songwriter. And
yeah.
Look for his stuff, too.
Thank you. Thank you for the plug. All right, well, I guess we'll just wait for some questions to come in, if anyone has anything specific.
You could answer the one that we saw.
Okay, yeah. You want to go for it?
You go for it. You were there.
You want to say what the question was really quick, Dad?
I'll say the question, and then you can... It's on you.
Yeah.
The question was, it was a comment, what was it like in the room during the Mama Says on Starting Something?
With the Waters family, they come with a lot of energy and a lot of loving, wonderful energy. And Michael was very excited to see them and to be with them. He's known them for a long time and worked with them a lot back, in the Jackson 5 days on Motown and later as the Jacksons on Epic. So the energy lifted when they came in to do the backgrounds. And that's such a rhythm background part that Michael would start dancing. Mama Say, Mama Say, he started doing the whole shoulder thing he would do, and it was a lot of fun. Just, it was a lot of fun.
Did he come up with that?
No, that was originally on a Hugh Masekela record.
Yeah.
Well, was it an interpolation?
No.
Yeah.
He pretty much copied the exact part. They just re-sang it. And he said, I have to have it. So he told Quincy, I have to have it.
Yeah.
And it was actually on a record that Quincy had produced for A&M Records on Hugh Masekela. So.
But it was Mike. I knew about the issue, but it was Michael's idea, right? Obviously.
Oh yeah. It was his idea, definitely.
So somebody just asked, what was your guys' role in the studio? Do you guys just, again, because we have a lot of new people in this live stream already.
Oh,
you guys want to just briefly go over that?
Yeah, I was Quincy Jones's driver, production assistant. Quincy does not know how to drive, and I was his production assistant. Pretty much the person with him, his personal assistant, production assistant, with him all the time in the studio, at home, pretty much everywhere. And I was excited to get the job because of that. I knew that I would be with him pretty much 24/7, except on Sundays.
Yeah, and Stephen was always there at Westlake Studios during Thriller, because whenever I was there, he was there. And I was there to program synthesizers and drum machines. I was working on film scores at the time, like doing realizations of Hollywood, movies. Some of the first movies ever on synthesizer. And then Quincy was looking for something different. He had his team of people, but I was coming from a cinematic, place, visual music, because that's kind of what film music is. And sure enough, Thriller was like the segue of visual music going into pop music, and then MTV and everything
Absolutely.
that happened. It was just like perfect.
Yeah.
So fortunately, when we got to the song Thriller, it was like cinema happening. Even bringing in someone like Vincent Price. Like
Yeah.
It was like a movie in a song.
Yeah.
So I was just there to program, and Greg Fillinganes he played the parts.
So Blake Slatkin asks, if Thriller was recorded now, what synths would you bring, and would you use any plugins?
If it were
recorded now, that's hard to.
But like Michael now, right? Let's create a scenario, right?
Right.
I mean, because the thing is, these vintage synths, everybody that's doing current records is using them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bruno Mars, The Weeknd, Taylor Swift. I mean, they're just everywhere. Dua Lipa, they use a old Jupiter. I can't imagine that we wouldn't.
I wouldn't change. What they're using, like to your point, what they're using now. It's the same thing. I wouldn't personally. If we did it now, I wouldn't change a thing.
Yeah, but if we did it like 15 years ago or 20 years ago, nobody wanted this sound.
Yeah.
So it just sort of came. So if you're asking now, it just happened to come back.
Right.
and I'm very happy about it. I think they sound great. In terms of plugins, there's some great plugins. And
some of the orchestral plugins possibly for mock-up stuff, or no?
Yeah, but I mean, those plugins are like players for samples.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, so the sound is a sample, which is good. Some of the synth plugins, they get you there, but to me, they're not as satisfying. I mean, to be straight about it, I mean, just I like having the knobs, and I think they have like the hardware makes a little bit of a difference.
Totally.
But I'll use them when I'm working on a film or something, and the DAW. And
there's some unique ones too that do stuff that are,
Yeah, and I like those probably more, because I already have the synth. Serum is good. I mean, we can get into all plugins.
So the same guy Blake was asking, do you run the drum machines through anything?
Hell yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, quite a few things.
Look over here, show them this. This is just one rig.
Yeah.
I love this guy's pedals too. These auto, and this is the original auto bit. I guess it was from the 90s or 2000s.
The Bit Crusher.
Yeah, it's a Bit Crusher.
From the early
and
2000s.
so I run this Lindrum. It's a vintage Lindrum, right? And I run it into this Bit Crusher, and then into this distortion compressor delay, and it's like kind of 12-bit emulating the Lexicon delays from the 80s. And then this is a reverb, kind of like the Lexicon reverbs. So I love this signal path. I have a pedal board down here that's a Boss pedal board, and they're pretty much 80s pedals.
That's the badass stuff right there.
I mean, then over here, keep following.
There's this section.
This is
right
a
here.
different.
Yeah.
This is a different. I mean, I process drums through this, and then over here, these are 70s pedals. They're MXR and Mutron pedals. I can see this rig over here. So I love processing, and I have other pedal boards too, like Moog, Foger pedals, and even modern ones. I have a digital pedal board of Strymon stuff and Death by Audio. Just things I like. So I love pedals.
Yeah.
That just got me out of my chair. I really do. Yeah, I love processing.
Yeah, it just makes for much more of an interesting textures,
Yeah, and before it goes to the engineer, it's just like inspiring while it's going, and you can kind of, with a singer even, like singing along with the melody and like dial in the shapes of the effects and then print it. Because you can always print like the dry one at the same time anyway.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, we're good.
Fun stuff.
Someone he was the same guy I was asking, are those the pedals that you used on Thriller? But
They didn't exist.
Yeah.
No.
Thriller was pretty much straightforward. You just record. They were the 70s pedals. I mean, they're like Greg used a Boss chorus on the Rhodes.
Right.
That's one effect I remember for sure.
Yeah, were some of these pedals over here?
They existed.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are 70s pedals, but
Those weren't used though.
I don't remember bringing a pedal. Oh, you know what?
I don't remember.
I'll tell you what we brought. It was a Roland System 100M.
Oh, right. That's what
modular.
it was.
And that had a phase shifter in it and a flanger in it. And so we used it as a modular.
Yeah.
The Roland System 100M. It's like a modular synth miniature one. And that had some effects in it, and we used those. We definitely ran the synclavier through those filters. It was in stereo.
Yeah.
And it had a great phase shifter, and then we used that on the strings, and I think in the background of Billie Jean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
great.
The other layer of strings. Yeah.
It's a layer, in the background. There's some stuff that's hard to hear.
Yeah.
On some of the songs, but
you can hear it in headphones.
Yeah, you can hear more of it.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any synth or Michael related questions? I feel like it'd be good to mix some of the Michael stuff up.
Yeah, Steven really can answer a lot of Michael questions.
Yeah, to really hear the nuances of what's going on in that record. I always tell everyone something that we all learned from Quincy is to listen late at night in the headphones when your blood pressure your body is at a calmer place where you can hear, your sensories are higher because there's less anxiety of the day.
I love that.
Yeah, I'm going to try that. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's what he always taught me, yeah. If you really want to hear something very clearly, you would listen to mixes at night, never in the day.
I'm more jumpy, and there's just more stimulus, right?
Yeah.
Annie Man asks, do you have a favorite sound that you've programmed?
Anthony.
One sound.
Yeah, that's what the question is.
One that's not layered though.
I love them all.
Right, I know. I was gonna say one just solo sound. That's hard.
Okay, so I don't want to give you one of these lame ass answers like it depends. You know, that's like what my attorney would say or something. I like bass sounds. I'm going to answer it.
Yeah.
I like bass sounds on the ARP 2600 that shake the room. And I like creating like a sound with even one oscillator because it doesn't phase. So I'll take a sawtooth wave in the filter, but then also grab like a sine wave from the same oscillator. So then I'll have a sawtooth, but like reinforced fundamental that is just going to shake the room when you turn it up, or have it like through a subwoofer or something like that. So that's it. That's my one sound.
So Ross Jesse asked, how many total tracks were done for Thriller? I remember hearing upwards of 70.
Could have been 3. Right?
I don't remember 70.
But think 24 times 3, 72.
Yeah.
Close to. Because you had Simpty and then a buffer track.
Yeah.
I'm
sorry. Let me go back. Not songs, tracks. Yes, that would work.
Isn't that what he's talking about?
Yeah, tracks.
Yeah.
How many tracks were worked on?
Right. Because we'll see tracks weren't.
Oh, tracks.
See,
Like
tracks. The
song.
term of tracks is more of
Sure.
current than back then. So in terms of tracks, that would be right.
There was a main 24 track,
Yeah.
and then it had Simpty code on it, and then the other machines would follow it.
Yeah.
And they were like for sure one other multi-track, and sometimes 2. I don't remember any more than that, but
I don't remember any more.
that was
than that
crazy to hook that up. But it would be like 24 times 3
Times
with
3,
a couple buffer tracks that couldn't get used because the Simpty would bleed, so it would leak into the audio. So if you put Simpty on track 24, right, you'd have to leave track 23 blank.
Right. Totally.
Gotcha.
If you put like a bass sound on track 23, then you would hear all the squiggly Simpty crosstalk.
Right.
Ed and Elia asked, what tape did you guys use? That's Ed, by the way.
Oh.
Dad.
It was Ampex.
What did they use? I don't know.
It was
Ampex
Ampex.
456?
Ampex 456.
Agfa?
Yeah.
I mean,
it was Ampex.
It was probably Ampex something, but the main tape was 456.
Yeah.
So that's what you want to do.
A lot of people were asking that. And
Which
I remember
actual tape?
Yeah.
You know what? We could find that out because in rather than being dumb, Matt Forger would tell us.
Well, that was it.
But if they want to know the model,
the model, that's
or the whatever that's called, 456 was the most common. That's what I used back then.
Yeah.
We'll find out from Matt.
I remember it was 456.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I do. I could see it. Yeah, I remember the model. Yeah.
Blake is asking, how do you stack the live drums with the drum machines without phasing or timing issues?
Well, it really wasn't. I mean, the
the
lid drum would go down first.
Right.
And then the player would play to it.
Would it always be in that order, pretty much?
Well, there weren't that many songs that had both.
Yeah.
Thriller's like just...
Thriller's just Lindrum.
Just Lindrum.
Yeah.
Billie Jean has like some Lin shakers and stuff like that, right? So those were laid down, and then Ndugu played to a click, but it's his feel.
It's his feel.
I mean, you could tell the backstory how that happened.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely his feel. His hat, kick, and snare.
But why
It's
Quincy
all him.
wanted to go with...
Well, Quincy wanted a different feel, a more of a, I don't know how to explain it, just a different backbeat and pull.
So there was a pure Lindrum version.
On the demo.
On the demo,
yeah. But Quincy knew, and so did Michael. They knew they didn't want that. They wanted something really warm and human.
Right, along with the bass. It's Louis Johnson. Doubled with synclavier, played by Greg.
Yeah.
But it's two humans. So the question was, did it phase, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it didn't phase, but it moved. It like vibed with the feel of the song, or they created the feel of the song. Because Beat It is about the feel. Like that's what you.
Oh, and Beat It. Yeah.
You just hear that bass and drums.
Yeah.
And they wanted a real natural type of thing, not quantized or anything. So nothing's really like perfectly on top of each other, so it's not going to phase.
Yeah. I mean, Jeff McCarl, same thing, on Beat It. Leon and Dougal Chancellor on Billie Jean. the feel. It was all about the right feel, you know.
Beat It. Yeah, that's Jeff on Beat It.
That's
And that,
Jeff
there's
on
no
Beat It,
there's
yeah.
no machine on that.
No machine. There was no machine. He went to Sunset Sound and put that down.
Yeah, that wasn't even at Westlake.
No, wasn't over on Sunset Sound.
Oh, really?
That's when that was the heat of everything, where they had 3 rooms going.
Yeah.
Westlake A, Westlake B, and Sunset Sound.
Yeah, that's when we were doing Thriller and the E.T. Storybook album.
And then you take the tapes, stick them in your car, and run them over to Westlake.
Yeah, I get in the car. We had a big Bronco. We had this big black Bronco with these big tires and tinted windows, and I jump in the Bronco and go to Sunset, grab the tapes.
The wood side. Wood side.
Yeah, the $5,000 stereo
This
in
is
the
all-
car. And, yeah.
Late 70s, early 80s.
Oh yeah, no,
Wood siding.
No, that's what he had before when he had the Lincoln with the wood paneling.
I remember
But
wood
then
paneling on something.
but then Quincy bought a brand new Bronco, all black.
Oh,
And because Bruce had a Bronco, and that's why he wanted a Bruce had a Bronco. Bruce Swedien had a Bronco, but yeah, he wanted to be up, sit up, and yeah.
Dominic, Mr. Mustache, asks, was there a moment in the process that you guys weren't so sure if it was going to all work out?
Never.
yeah, I just trusted him.
Yeah, that never happened.
That was maybe I mean, I don't know. Anybody could have self-doubt creep in, but it was on them. You know, it was on Michael and Quincy.
Yeah.
And Rod.
Yeah, that didn't come up. They were focused on making the best record they could make. So there wasn't any. I never felt from them any anxiety, or they were just so focused on making the best record they could make.
Yeah, and they did have all the best people.
Yeah.
In every aspect.
Yeah.
And the best songs, like they really demoed songs for a long time, and
Yeah.
they just, I think the way they didn't have to worry about that as much is they just took care of business one baby step at a time, and everything was really well taken care of. It was like a great process. Quincy did his research, right? He was always looking at what else was out there and why people were liking it, and when he picked the songs, balancing the album with songs that would be complementary. They all had to be really good in themselves, but still complementary. So I think you're just so busy getting it right. Maybe you don't have as much time to fill yourself with self-doubt, you know.
Yeah, you don't. And Quincy always had that really very rare ability to have what I like to call now the satellite view, the drone view, and the ground view at the same time. I mean, they were all very focused. Michael was very focused. Quincy and Rod and Bruce and Matt, Anthony was very focused. There was we had a lot of fun. People had a lot of laughter, but people were focused, and so there was no time to worry.
Right. And
know?
specialized. Like
Yeah.
now, I mean, some artists, most of us, like now have to do so many things.
Yeah.
It's hard to focus on one thing, but when Steven says focused, like all I had to do, and I could do a lot of different things, but just make the coolest synthesizer sounds and drum beats and all that kind of stuff. One thing. Like now, a guy has to do everything.
Yeah.
You have to like write the song, program it, record it yourself, mix it, set up the mics, like, and these guys had like the best
Advertise it.
social media.
Right.
I mean,
market it after.
you name it.
It's a lonely place now. It wasn't lonely then. You have people in the room, literally in the room with you, communicating with you, inspiring you,
Right.
Sharing their thoughts. No, try that. It was very.
I thought this was an interesting
One
question.
last thing I want to add
Yeah.
to that though, but I think that's missing today too, is the emotional support of
Yes.
having like human beings around you.
Yes.
And it was like a social place with, like Steven said, like there was fun in the room and all that. So you're not going to be thinking about that, but compared to like sitting there alone.
Yeah.
Because you have to decide, like you can't even say to somebody, was that good? Because sometimes I might play a take and think it sucks, and everybody's, no,
Yeah.
that's the one.
Right.
So you kind of
Yeah.
just wanted to add that to it. I think
That's a
it'd
good
be
point.
Good to get together a little bit more when we can.
Yeah.
Padilla Tom asks, were Michael's lyrics finalized in the studio or prior to recording? If so, how many ad-lib lyrics made it into the album? I don't know if you have to give a specific, but
That's a good question.
yeah. I'm curious about that, honestly.
Rod Timberton's lyrics were definitely finalized, and I remember Michael being as well. in terms of ad-lib lyrics, he would do that off the top of his head.
Mm-hmm.
There are things that he did on that record that we didn't expect. The high falsetto at the end of doing Human Nature, that came out of nowhere. That wasn't planned. But ad-libs, it was all about him, the at the end of Human Nature, that wasn't planned. He was brilliant. His ad-libs, we would really, really had a lot of fun.
I wasn't there for that.
Listening to his ad-libs. Yeah, Anthony was mostly earlier in the day, afternoon, early evening, but Michael did his vocals at night. So
How long would like a vocal session take for Michael?
not that long. He was very quick with backgrounds. He learned that from Stevie Wonder, how to layer and texture backgrounds. He learned all that from watching all his experience at Motown, watching all those great acts do that. And the Temptations and Marvin Gaye and Stevie and
So the take count wasn't very high. He was going in and
he was doing it. He was once again he was so focused.
What take count?
Yeah.
There's no back like hidden stuff. It's
yeah,
a track.
there's no comms.
No.
He had like 8 tracks to do everything on, because there was tracks of all these different guitar. They didn't make every decision, so there were like alternate guitars and synths and drums and arrangement and strings and horns, and so Michael didn't have like, you can't just go take.
No.
And I know this because I heard it from you and from Matt Forger about how prepared Michael was, not on the ad-libs, but with the whole arrangement. Like he knew what he was going to come in and do. He had it figured out.
Yeah.
It was very like amazingly efficient from my understanding of it.
Yeah, he was a student, excellent student of the craft of recording. I mean, no doubt. Yeah.
Kind of a master of it.
Yeah.
Do you remember any of the reference songs that Quincy or Michael were inspired by?
Reference songs.
Stuff that you guys were listening to in the
Oh, yeah,
studio,
well, we love-
stuff that got brought
My
up.
Sharona was brought up.
My Sharona, which is
Knack.
which is why they wanted to do a song that's where Beat It eventually came out of. But songs that they loved, that we were all listening to, that Michael and Quincy were listening to, that Quincy and I listened to. I mean, from everything from Hall & Oates to
I remember them.
I mean, I Can't Go For That. I mean, a lot of stuff. Everything from Doobie Brothers to, quite a few. Fleetwood Mac. Sounds, drum kit sounds, bass sounds. Not just listening to the song, but just the quality of recording and sounds that Michael would like. In terms of texture, because they thought in terms of texture.
Well, I could point to for sure Morris Day and the Time and Prince.
Right.
Because I was there with Michael, in the early evenings with him on the turntable, picking out sounds that he liked on those records. He was like, oh, I like this Prince sound. He was kind of listening to a lot of Prince, like really checking it out, because they were both...
Yeah, everyone
Michael
does
was,
that, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Michael was up there, but he was aware, and he liked the sounds, especially some of that Minneapolis stuff.
Yeah. I mean, Thriller is definitely an album of thousands of nuances. And, when you really listen closely over and over and over and over and over again, I can't even count how many times we've listened to the record. Long after all these years of working on it. The things you hear, there are things that pop up, you go, oh, yeah.
There's definitely references now that you say it that way. I didn't think of it in that way.
Yeah.
And like even the way Greg's approach to the bass lines and stuff, that's right out of Stevie Wonder.
Yeah, absolutely.
The University of Stevie Wonder.
University of Stevie Wonder.
Added to the University of Quincy Jones, because he brought a lot of reference to things from like jazz music.
And big band and all of that.
In his arrangements, because of the way he would use the brass and the strings. Like,
Well, I think I've heard you guys talk about how Thriller is like very Latin, right?
Well, I would say the song Thriller is a Latin thing. It's a merengue.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
da 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 boom, ba da 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 boom. Right? You don't think of it that way.
Yeah.
But it is.
But it
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
It's interesting. Let me find some good ones. How was Behind the Mask? How finished was Behind the Mask was when it was pulled from the album? And do you guys think the original Thriller era version will see the light of day? Do you know anything about that?
It's out. It's released now.
I was gonna say, isn't it?
Did it just come out on the 40th one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that that is the Thriller version.
Yeah.
That's the Thriller version. And I have to say, like, Greg Fillingane's got, because it didn't go on Thriller, Greg Fillingane's got the okay from Michael to put it on his solo album.
Solo album.
And I was fortunately part of a few people that worked on that album with Greg.
Yeah.
Check out Greg's version. It's quite a good one.
Nice.
Yeah. Also check out the third verse of Vincent Price that they now
On Thriller.
On Thriller. His third verse is really, you get the whole visual of what Rod was creating.
If you could have only used 3, Blake Slatkin asks again, if you could only have 3 synths on the album, what would they be?
1 sound and 3 synths.
Well, if you could only have brought 3 synths that day, what would you have brought?
I'll tell you right now.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You want to tell?
No, you go. Because I'm going to add something to it. Go ahead. You go.
It's just between 3 and 4 is where it gets tough. But I would just have to say ARP 2600, Jupiter 8, and Mini Mode. Sorry, everybody else. I mean, that's what ended up on most of the stuff.
Yeah.
And those are the ones that I really
Is
know.
the 4th one the Prophet?
Well, then the Synclavier was there.
Yeah.
And it supplied something like the Billie Jean bass double is kind of out there.
Yeah.
I mean, to put an FM sound in a song like that is so bizarre.
And that cymbal came from the Synclavier too.
Well, on Beat It.
On Beat It.
I
Beat It.
didn't do that.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah. And one of the things that, what I always say, the secret weapon of that created such warmth was not a synthesizer. It was the Fender Rhodes.
Yeah, the Rhodes
Yeah.
are all
And they
over
would
the
layer,
album.
Very
if
true.
you layer the Fender with all of those, you get a sound that you can't get otherwise.
It's that chorus
Again,
Fender
Stevie
combo.
Wonder University.
Stevie Wonder.
Yeah.
Stevie Wonder.
And
From
all,
both Michael's view and Greg's view.
Yeah.
Yeah.
all of the Rhodes had that chorus effect on it, pretty much. It seems like.
Probably.
Yeah.
I noticed it a
Yeah.
lot in Thriller, but I don't know. Probably.
Yeah. Yeah. Lady in My Life.
It's got the chorus on it.
Yeah. Greg. Yeah.
Titanium World asks, how much Quincy's role as a producer played a part in making of the album Thriller?
There wouldn't be a
There
Thriller.
wouldn't be a Thriller.
It would be not thrilling.
It wouldn't be thrilling.
It wouldn't be thrilling.
I don't know. I mean, yeah.
It wouldn't be thrilling. Yeah.
His fingerprint is in every single thing.
Everything. How him and Michael, their relationship was the way they would communicate. Just sometimes not even saying anything to each other. They were the perfect unit. You know, they really could read each other, and it was really great.
Yeah, and I don't want to exclude Michael. There wouldn't be a Thriller without Michael, but it's like
Yeah, well, that's what I
those
said.
are the
Yeah.
you said it right.
Yeah.
There's the two of them, and everybody else is sort of there.
Yeah.
And Rod comes in, and he's pretty important because he
Very.
wrote,
Yeah.
not only did he write a good amount of songs, but he was just there, and his presence was important in so many ways.
Oh, in so many ways. I mean, because he once again, his focus, he would come so prepared with his demos. And, you know, people forget, you know, he also wrote the title of Off the Wall. You know, he wrote Rock With You. I mean, he
titled Thriller.
He titled...
It wasn't called Thriller.
It wasn't called
because
Thriller.
of Rod changing
So-
the name of the song that was to become Thriller. It was Starlight, and he had an idea like to change it. He just think this isn't Off the Wall. We're not making Off the Wall 2.
Right.
And this needs to be something special. So he came up with a new idea for the song, Starlight, called it Thriller, and then said, this is our concept. Like,
But it's funny that wasn't the lead single then.
yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't even a single.
But if that
No, it
was the
wasn't a
title
single.
of the album...
It wasn't
then
even a single at all for like a year.
Yeah.
It wasn't
But
slated
it was-
to be a single. It
yeah.
was like a novelty song.
Yeah.
It was the last single released, you know, so... But you know,
Yeah.
but we...
It is crazy.
But when you hear when you hear the record, everyone. I mean, I remember, you know, like I said, Anthony and I were the youngest in the room, you know, along with Michael, and it was very clear to me, and to Quincy, in terms of, you know, it's interesting because the actual first single wasn't Billie Jean, but when people look back on it, they think it was. It was The Girl Is Mine with Paul McCartney. But for me, Billie Jean is the song that really, really,
Yeah.
really did it.
It started the phenomenon.
It started it. It started it, for
Yeah.
sure. And then, of course, the Motown special and the Moonwalk took it to a whole other, made it visual in a whole other way.
and Steven heard that song with Michael whispering it or like singing him the
it
demo
in my ear.
and beatboxing it to him.
Yeah.
Before it
So
was,
somebody actually asked that. Did any of the beatboxing translate into actual records?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
any of his beatbox ideas?
Well, Michael he was a rhythm machine, you know.
Oh, let's see. Really?
And
Wow.
he would sing. He would do that with Anthony, like he do this whole rhythm thing and say, "Oh yeah," and he would sing parts to Anthony.
he would sing and dance. I mean, that was all. It all came from like the bottom up
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Singing bass lines, singing guitar lines, rhythmically, melodically. I mean, he was really, he was a rhythm machine, and he sang Billie Jean and sang it in my ear. The
That's
first
just
time,
so crazy.
with a dummy lyric. Yeah.
What do
It's
you
crazy.
think? Did he say, "What do you think of this?" or what?
Yeah, he said, "Do you like this?" And I said, "Yeah, yeah, it's very cool."
I saw that this question was in the comment earlier today, and we kind of talked about it off camera, but what synth was used on the unreleased Rod Temperson song Hot Street? Or how was the wah wung like sound effect created? You know anything about that?
I didn't work on that.
Yeah, I
know.
don't remember.
Rod did a lot of these demos himself.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And he was great at all of
Yeah.
it. I mean, he made great sounds and played everything.
yeah. And people forget Rod was a keyboard player
Mm-hmm.
in Heatwave, and he wrote their hits.
Yeah, he was
You know, so he was a real musician. So when he came over with his demos, they were scratch stuff he did in his house, at that time, and he was in the UK, but yeah, he,
Sorry, I don't. Yeah,
yeah,
I don't know what he used.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what he used. Yeah.
Jessica Ruby asked, "What do you prefer, Thriller or Starlight as a title?"
Thriller. No question. No question.
Starlight's a beautiful name.
It is, yeah.
And
Yeah.
and we made the starfall sound at the beginning of Thriller.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe we've thought that in the past. It was supposed to be like a falling star, and maybe it was just some like signal looking back to acknowledging Starlight in some way. They're kind of still part of each other.
It's funny.
Yeah. Starlight's so light sounding when you listen to the record.
Jules Judah asks, "Were there any financial issues? Was the budget for the project unlimited?"
Great question.
No, it wasn't unlimited, but Columbia Epic was willing to back whatever that Quincy and Michael wanted to do, because they knew they were so committed, and Michael had obviously sold 10 million off the wall records. I think 8 US, 2 million around the world. I think it was a total of 10 million on off the wall. So, he clearly was
They had
a
budget.
valued artist. But it was considered a high budget back then, for sure.
But they still had to fight for some stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
They had to fight for Thriller.
For Thriller single, and
Yeah.
there's beliefs about the Thriller video wasn't such an easy thing to green light.
Yeah, once again, at that point, it was the biggest budget of any video that had ever been done. So it was a mini movie, pretty much,
Yeah, it was a short. It was better than most shorts that I've seen at a film festival.
Right, exactly.
I Am Annie Man asks, "Did Steve have his famous polyfusion at the studio?" You guys got that?
Steve Porcaro?
Steve Porcaro. That's
Probably, yeah.
Steve Porcaro.
Now, that's a question we'd have to ask Steve.
Yeah, we'd have to ask him.
I mean-
yeah. I don't remember. Did he have that with him?
What is
I
a
wasn't-
polyfusion?
I
I've
wasn't
never even
there
heard
when
of that.
Steve was there. It's like a modular.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't there when Steve was there.
Yeah, I don't remember.
He might have. I think he did. He do everything there on Human Nature?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
So they just took the basic demo
Yeah.
across and then added.
Mm-hmm.
That song sounds so good, though.
I know. That's one
so
of the best
Yeah, I don't
synthesizer
remember them.
sounds.
I don't remember them transferring. I think he redid everything in the studio. I don't remember them transferring. Going from the B roll to the A roll.
We could ask Steve. That's
Yeah.
an interesting one for the synthesizer
Yeah.
people out there.
Yeah, he had the parts, but I think once it came to Westlake, they really redefined the sounds and really,
But the song just works without anything. It's just
Yeah.
such a good song too,
Oh, yeah,
and then
it's just
to be able to realize such an emotional song on synthesizer and not have it. This is where Steve is just like unparalleled.
Yeah.
The expressivity, the nuances that he gets out of synths.
Yeah. And he wrote it on piano, and initially, but John Bettis just created that magical lyric. That lyric is just stand the test of time, as they say.
In the verse, right?
Yeah.
This question just came in. Was MJ open for ideas or more exactly what he wanted?
Open.
Yeah.
He's very open?
Yeah. Yeah,
Definitely.
he would come in very clear about what he was doing, but he was definitely open. And that's the other thing we talked about before, is that everyone in the room was open,
Yeah, and it started with Quincy, because Quincy would be like, try something.
Yeah.
That's what we heard from in our interviews. Everybody would say that Quincy would want you to try something, and then it would come around but it was usually like going to work. He just would find the right thing.
Yeah.
Michael did know what he wanted, though, too. He was very specific, but it doesn't mean that he was going to just say only this.
Yeah.
He would just want to add, because they were always trying to push the envelope and make things better, and they did.
Yeah, because Michael had, like I said, a really good idea. We were saying this before, but Greg would come in and do things, and Paul Jackson would do things, and they would all, add a little something here and there, and it's important for everybody to feel safe, and Quincy created that environment for everyone to feel safe to share, because if you feel intimidated, you're not gonna share your ideas. But Quincy made it clear that it was an open forum for sharing.
Yeah, you don't have to play it safe. You
Yeah.
can try something.
Yeah.
Okay, AB Zipper asks, it has always been said that the percussive intro of Baby Be Mine sounds a little bit weird rhythmically. Did the team have any problems when they programmed it, or was it a tape recorder that had a glitch? And he DM'd this question earlier too, I saw.
No, that's Rod Tiverton. It came. That was his demo. I mean,
It came like that.
Yeah, Rod.
It's got drums on it though too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's got a fill, and
Yeah.
so maybe it had that, whatever you're referring to.
Like some weird tape glitch thing?
I mean, I don't know what it is specifically.
Oh, I know. Is he talking about the pitch change?
He's talking about
There's a pitch change. Remember
he's talking about the percussive intro of Baby Be Mine. No?
Whatever you're hearing, I'm sure you're hearing something.
Yeah.
Was there, like as it came across from Rod, and
Right.
then we put stuff on top. I put a ton of stuff with Greg, like all these synth things.
And a lot of it,
And then Paul
pretty much
played-
all of it's live playing too. So it's not
Yeah.
hard sunk.
Oh, yeah,
Nothing's
yeah.
hard sunk.
Right.
Pretty much nothing besides a drum machine
Yeah.
to click.
Yeah.
Nothing. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's almost the whole album.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's why it feels so good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's human.
Was anything like Dr. Clicked?
The Lindrum.
Just the Lindrum.
Just
Nothing.
Nothing else.
Yeah.
No other. The synths. Greg played everything. It's all with not even that much punching in. Like starting something, all that bass is just
Yep.
played.
Yeah.
Even the repetitive things, he would just lock it in.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what it is, though. It's a person in that zone
Yeah.
that gets you that
It
groove.
gets you going. Yeah. And Michael was definitely in that groove. He was very rarely punched in. I think I can
Yeah.
count on one hand.
He would hear anything if it like went out of that.
Yeah.
If it wasn't in the zone,
Yeah.
any spot, he'd be just like, because he was always kind of moving internally, and I think he would sense it as a dancer. Like it's not right here or something. Everyone though was kind of, the collective consciousness was about that. When you're in there, you just know that it all has to feel right. It's just so.
Yeah.
You just know you have to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, Philippe Friere USA asks, can we speak about the opening sound on Beat It and how did it come about?
I mean, it's a Denny Yeager sound that he programmed on the Synclavier 2, which is the small keyboard Synclavier, and it's on the Synclavier demo disc. So it's this blue miniature vinyl, No, it's actually a regular vinyl. Yeah, it's a regular 33 what is it? 33 what on a it's not
RPM?
RPM. It is RPMs, rotations per minute.
Pretty sure.
It goes around 33 times a
Yeah.
minute. Okay, so yeah. So it's just that sound, and it's the preset on the synclavier. Now, whose synclavier it was, it might have been Tom Baylor's, or it might have been Don Dorsey. I've heard different things, like they just brought a synclav in, and then, because Michael, it's the same, like, note pattern as Denny Yeager's demo on that blue disc. Like, even the pitch change and everything.
It was Tom Baylor's.
It was Tom's.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was Tom's.
Yeah.
Tom Baylor, who, by the way, wrote She's Out of My Life on the Off the Roll album, who was also very close friends with Quincy and a great arranger, on his own.
And the vocal arranger for We Are the World.
And vocal arranger for
Wow.
We Are the World. Yeah.
Yeah, what a great
pretty
song.
good one.
Yeah, Tom's a brilliant guy.
What synths were used on AB Zipper was asking, what synths are used on Baby Be Mine?
This
Here, let me show it.
mini mode. ARP 2600.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Definitely they are.
That
Something-
ARP 2600.
Yeah, it's something behind
And-
me. I know that,
Not this exact JP8, but
but
a
it was.
JP8.
Yeah,
Let me just get
But
back
it's the
to it
same, year,
right,
more or less.
right.
The Prophet 5.
That's why I turned around. I was like, I know.
And
What's
then,
behind me?
and then it's a little murky, because that's the song where Michael was really playing the song, like the sounds on the vinyl, trying to pick off sounds. Maybe an OBX, but I had an OBX there. I honestly don't remember if it saw the light of day. These were the main synths, like the go-to, because the room was like, we had every synth in town there, like just. To
I mean, you were telling me that the hallway was
The
just
hallway was
stuffed
full.
with
Oh yeah, because
gear
the studio was
cases.
stacked up, and then
Yeah.
you ran out of room, and you had to put
yeah.
it in the hole.
And people are running between A and B.
between A and B, and there was only so much room in B. That was the thing. So it's like the synths that were in there, if you could do it with those, then you would. And if you just couldn't, if there was a specific sound and you could hear, like, oh no.
Did you have access to delay and effects or anything, or
I
no,
mean,
pretty
Bruce
much
had,
Yeah.
whatever,
whatever
prime
you
time.
had?
And,
Yeah.
Yeah,
but, one or two of each thing. It wasn't like plug-in wall or, or whatever, plug-in rack.
definitely not back then.
You didn't need
Yeah,
it.
Yeah,
There's not a lot of that. It's all
Yeah.
about playing it. He mixes it, puts some reverb on it, EQs it.
plays it back, and everyone says yes or no.
Yeah.
Pretty simple.
Yeah.
Jules Judah asked, would you credit the album's overall vision to Michael or Quincy? I don't think you have to pick one, but
Both, and Rod.
Was there, maybe if
The
you
overall
wanna,
album,
yeah, the album's overall vision. That's what the question is.
I mean, from my perspective, is Michael and Quincy. I mean, they came together on that.
but if you could break it down, is there just one vision of the album? Is there like something that Quincy contributed more towards, and then Mike, like with Lennon and McCartney, it's like
Right.
Lennon was more about one thing and McCartney was more about another, like being more melodic, and Lennon was more about whatever, like the feel or something, or the explosiveness of the. Maybe you could speak to that, like.
Yeah, I mean, I think it evolved, because song, one song is created, and then another is created, and then by that next one that's created, it alters, it changes. It was evolving, so when you
Yeah, it changes the next thing you do.
things,
Yeah.
exactly, so it was constantly evolving. So that's for me, it's both of them, both of their vision. I mean, because also, once again, it evolves when Rod creates Thriller. So then it's like, oh, okay. Then you have, so you've got
Yeah.
Lady in My Life, one of the songs that was written later, as a ballad, so it kept evolving.
And Michael would have his ideas, but it was also Quincy's connect. I could say Quincy had something unique to any producer, his connections. And that's how we would even get Vincent Price to show up.
Yeah.
How else, who could do that? He picks up the phone, and it's just like we were there when the idea happened.
Yeah.
It was just like, well, let's do this. And then, like, whatever much time goes by, not very much time goes by, and then he's suddenly in there So Michael might think like, oh, this is like a movie now, and then Quincy throws down and says,
So somebody was
"Up the
asking
ante."
about the door knocking in Thriller. Was that something that would be like a Quincy thing?
Well, he found a sound effects guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Whoever did that.
Yeah, that was I can't remember his name now, but yeah, Quincy knew that Peggy Lipton, his wife, Peggy Lipton Jones, was friends with Vincent Price, and he remembered that, and he called her, and then she called Vincent, and
that's how I didn't know that.
That's how it happened.
Wow.
And Vincent said, "Yeah." So it was the first and only time Vincent rapped to rhythm, or did spoken word to rhythm.
So I think we have time for maybe one or two
And like
more
Van Halen,
questions.
too. Quincy was always one step away from anybody.
Yeah. Well, he
Right.
called Eddie, and initially Eddie hung up on him twice. Actually, he didn't believe that it was him.
You hear that?
And then
Yeah, I know.
And then he had to call. He called Madeline, Quincy's assistant at the office, and she called and said, "Hey, it's really Quincy calling you." And he was so embarrassed. He was pretty funny. Like, "Oh man, I'm so sorry."
Quincy Jones is calling me?
Yeah, it was pretty great.
Okay, so what do you have?
Yeah.
Okay, Anthony and Steven, I found a tape from James Ingram in low quality, but I found it. I have the multi-track of P.Y.T. and I can hear the choirs, the music leaking through the mic with James's voice. It's not rude. Please could you send me a hi to from Madrid? You guys want to just say hi?
Hi.
To Madrid?
Yeah.
Hi, Madrid.
Hi, Madrid. Yeah. How you doing?
Hola, Madrid.
Yeah. James Ingram.
Were you guys involved in any of the live arrangements or live performances?
You mean after the album came out?
No.
Yeah. No.
No.
Was do you know any of the musicians? Was Greg?
Greg
Yeah.
Fillinganes.
Greg.
Did Jonathan do it? I mean, was there a Thriller tour? I
No.
don't know that there was.
No. There wasn't a Thriller tour.
So there was.
There was only a tour after Bad. There was no Thriller tour.
There was a question about the Eddie Van Halen session too. Did he record it with you guys live, or was it brought in?
Well, he
He
was
was in the studio.
the track was done, and he was in A, and we were in B, and I was actually the leader on the Union session. I have the Union contract with his name on there. I happened to get it when I did an interview for the BBC because I just wanted to remember like who did what.
Yeah.
So I got all these contracts from the union, from the musicians union, and I didn't even remember it. But it was a union session. He was called in, like Stephen told you the story. Like he didn't know that it was Quincy, and then he came in, and came to Studio A, right? And then everybody kind of cleared out and gave him their space, and he was in there with, you were in there, right?
Yeah.
Michael, Quincy,
Yeah, I was coming and going.
Rod probably.
Rod was in there, yeah.
And he just laid down a bunch of stuff.
He came with a bunch of guitars and asked Quincy. He said, "Hey, what do you want me to do?" And Quincy just simply said, "Hey, I want you to be you. Do you?" And he grabbed, his famous Strat that he used in Van Halen, and went out there and laid down a bunch of different parts, and then Bruce and Quincy put it together.
Put it together, but not with Pro Tools.
Yes.
With a
Scissors.
razor blade
With a razor blade
and
Yeah.
tape.
and tape.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
and tape.
flew it in.
And flew it in. So that solo you heard was cut together. Was not played in that order.
But it's such a great sequence, how it builds to a high point.
But that's two guys knowing how to really arrange.
And didn't you say what's at the end was at the beginning? Or
Yeah. Where it sounds like he's knocking.
Mm-hmm.
That was what he did last.
So I thought this could be kind of an interesting question. What instrument did Quincy use to give directions from? And I know, like, between a producer and, like, musicians, it's not always, like, an instrument. But, like, maybe you could elaborate, Stephen, on, like, Quincy's, like, language with everybody. Or how he would, interact with musicians, express, like, how you'd want a part made or something.
I mean, Quincy started out as a trumpet player and then became a very gifted arranger for big band, from Lionel Hampton to Basie to and a number of other So, I mean, he would, go over to the piano and say, "Oh, what about this?" And someone, just to give him an idea. But he talked in terms of texture. That's a word that keeps coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But that's how he thinks in terms of textures and layering. And because when you're an arranger and you're arranging big band, it's all about voicings and,
Yeah, he did. I don't remember him telling anybody notes necessarily to play or anything.
No.
Like charts.
No.
It was all like emotion and texture, like Steven said. I remember one time he was talking about an arrangement and he was saying blue. I want it to be.
I was going to ask that if color was ever brought up.
Color was brought up.
Yeah. And
That's really interesting.
And that's what I mean by textures. He was very visual that way.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
It was about that. And if it didn't feel right, they would just redirect immediately.
Yeah.
And get you to. That was a communication, though. It was like they'd stop and then you'd just get redirected and you're there.
And quickly. We've talked about that before.
Yeah.
There was if it wasn't working, Michael would get quiet. And so would Quincy. They would like, no, move on. Let's move on. Let's try something else. It was never like, let's play it back 10 times.
Oh,
try to figure out.
Yeah.
No, even with a kick drum, it's like, no.
Nobody got vibed out either.
Yeah.
Like
No.
you were just always they're with you. You're
That's
all
good.
Yeah.
moving together.
Yeah.
Matt Forger, the engineer, when we interviewed him, talked about it had one mind, the room.
Yeah.
It's beautiful when that happens.
Yeah. It's rare.
Do you guys have any closing thoughts you guys want to go on?
Mike, I'm just thankful that you guys are all out there and we can talk about something that's interesting to you and answer these questions. It's amazing that it's kind of that a lot of this type of music, first of all, because that's the most important thing of it, the songs, and then the production and I don't know, whatever feelings were happening then, it seems like it's just sort of resurfacing now.
Yeah.
In today's music, so I'm happy about that, and I'm there for anybody to have more dialogue.
Yeah. It's very inspiring to know that something done 40 years ago on so many levels has resonated with millions of people around the world, and how it changed music and all the sounds and arrangements that were created on this record are still influencing, hundreds of thousands of musicians and making people feel good, pretty much.
Yeah, it still is.
Yeah, 40 years later. So it's we're very lucky, fortunate, and blessed to have been in that room.
And I hear it in today's music, and it inspires me now to just want to keep on going.
Yeah. Yeah, I still play the album at least 4 times a week.
Do you?
At least, yeah.
It's great. Well, we got our podcast coming soon, guys. Make sure to follow us on YouTube, right? That's where everything's gonna.
Yeah, the podcast is going to be on YouTube. I think we'll announce the date next week.
It's really exciting. People are really gonna like that.
I hope so. Yeah, it's like really in depth.
I hope so.
Yeah, I hope so too. I mean, this is something we wanted to do for a long time, right?
Yeah,
Steven and I wanted to do it years ago, and we're doing it now.
Yeah.
And we get into conversations with the people that were there, and we found out a lot of stuff, different points of view and information we didn't know before.
Yeah.
And some good stories.
All right, great guys. Yeah, make sure to go follow us on YouTube, subscribe over there, so we can have a page when we start rolling out the podcast. So thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.